What's up? I'm Vin, and today I want to talk about Cavalieri's principle. So these are the three examples we're going to go through, and here are some notes. And just a little background on Cavalieri's principle. The way this technique works is we have solids that could be defined by cross sections, which, for example, if we look at a pyramid here, a pyramid is just a bunch of squares stacked on top of each other, and they're getting smaller as you move up. So the idea behind this, what we need to be able to do is, if we take one of those squares, that's one of our cross sections, we need to be able to describe the area of the base of one of these cross sections. And if we could come up with a function that does describe the area of the base of these cross sections, we could use that function to find the volume of the entire solid. So a of x dx represents the volume of one cross section, and the integral from a to b essentially just adds the volume up of all of these individual slices, which when you add up all of the squares that go from the bottom of the pyramid all the way to the top, it gives you the volume of the whole solid. Okay, for this first example here, we're going to go through the steps, and the first thing we want to do is just sketch this region. So the region is determined by the circle x squared plus y squared equals 1, which is the unit circle. It has the center at the origin, and the radius is 1. So the sketch just needs to help you set up the right integral ultimately. But this is our unit circle here. And what we're looking at here is we have cross sections perpendicular to the x-axis. And it's going through the entire unit circle. So this is one of our cross sections here in red. And what we're doing with these cross sections, if I lay it out over here, is we're building these cross sections into equilateral triangles. So I'm going to make this into a triangle where all three sides are the same. And the volume of the solid we're trying to find here is just a bunch of these equilateral triangles. These solids are very difficult to visualize, but just imagine if you had a circle laying on the floor and you take any line going across like this, that you're just building all of these lines into equilateral triangles. And if you did this all the way across the circle many times, you might start to be able to visualize what this thing looks like. And whatever this thing is, I can't think of an object that describes this. That's what we're trying to find the volume of when we put these equilateral triangles all the way across. So what you need to be able to do though next, once we sketch the region and we take the cross section, we need to be able to describe its volume. So if we look here, this prism here, we need to describe the volume, so we need to have an equation to use. So we're going to take this equation here and solve it for y, and we would get plus or minus the square root of 1 minus x squared. That would be if you subtract x squared on both sides and take the square root. But the plus minus, the way to interpret it in the context of this question is the plus square root models the top half of the circle, and the minus square root models the bottom half. So with this information here, we can go ahead and describe the length of one of the cross sections here. And the length of this cross section we would find, let's call it S, by doing the top equation minus the bottom equation. And the top equation is radical 1 minus x squared, and we have minus, the bottom equation is negative radical 1 minus x squared. And when we subtract these, we're going to have 2 radical 1 minus x squared. Sometimes you could just look at these and just, you'll just be able to do this in your head, this step, but I'm just showing the process here of how we describe this. So this equilateral triangle, these are the dimensions. Each side is 2 radical 1 minus x squared. And this, since it's a single cross section, the concept is that these are really thin. This length here is delta x. So when we want to describe the volume here, we're going to use this idea that for any triangle ABC, where this is lowercase a, lowercase b, lowercase c, the area of the triangle is 1/2 AB sine of angle C. So when we have two sides and the angle between them, we could find the area using that. And since this is an equilateral triangle, all the angles are 60 degrees. So the volume of one slice, which, let's change colors here so that it doesn't collide with all of our work. The volume of one slice is 1/2 A times B times sine of the angle. So let's think about each side is 2 radical 1 minus x squared. And the angle between any of the sides is 60 degrees. And then we just have the delta x at the end here. So this represents the volume of one of these slices. And if we simplify this a bit, half of 2 cancels. We have a leftover 2 here, and we have a matching radical being multiplied here. So we have 1 minus x squared once the radical disappears. And then sine of 60 is radical 3 over 2. We have dx. And now the 2 over 2 is going to cancel. So the single slice of volume here is just square root 3 times 1 minus x squared dx. But we want to find the volume of the entire region. So you have to think about, where does this region start and stop? And on the x-axis, the unit circle goes all the way left to -1 and all the way right here to +1. So the volume is equal to square root 3 times the integral from -1 to 1 of 1 minus x squared dx. But a little trick we could use here, if we want, we could double this integral and then cut the limits in half and go from 0 to 1. Because of the symmetry here, we could find the volume from 0 to 1 and just multiply it by 2. And that's just going to make plugging in a little bit easier, since we're going to be doing this question without a calculator. So we've got 1 minus x squared dx. And now for this step here, all we're going to do is take the antiderivative. So the volume is equal to 2 square root 3 times the antiderivative of 1 is x. The antiderivative of x squared is 1/3 x to the third. And our limits are going from 0 to 1. So then here we've got 2 square root 3. And when we substitute in 1, we got 1 minus 1/3 when we replace x with 1. And now minus, when we substitute 0, we're just going to get 0. So then this simplifies to 2 square root 3 times, and the only thing left in the brackets here is 2/3, which gives you 4 square root of 3 over 3. So that is the volume of our solid for the first question. Okay, for the second question here, we're going to start the same way by sketching this region. So we're looking at the curve y equals e to the x, which is our exponential function here. So the curve is just going to go up like this. We also have the line y equals 2, but it's important to note that y equals e to the x hits the y-axis at y equals 1. So the line y equals 2, which we're going to draw next, is a little bit above the y-intercept of y equals e to the x. So there's our second equation graphed. And then our last one, the line x equals 0, is just the y-axis. So the region that we're focusing on is this space here. So that takes care of sketch the region. So we know where to look. We're going to look in this space here. And what we want to find here is the volume of the solid whose base is bounded by region R, and the cross sections are perpendicular to the x-axis are going to be semicircles. So think about what that means here. These cross sections inside region R, perpendicular to the x-axis, we're going to take them. So that cross section here, we're going to take, and we're going to build them into semicircles. So it's a little bit tough to visualize, but if I, once again, try to draw this solid on the side here, it's like every one of these cross sections is just going to be turned into a semicircle. So whatever you could imagine this solid as, like what it represents, I can't think of a specific object. Maybe it looks like bread or cheese. I don't know. But that's what we're finding the volume of, whatever the resulting solid is. So here, the challenge then becomes, how do we describe the volume of one slice here, one of these cross sections? And if we could describe the volume of one of these slices, then we could describe the volume of the entire thing. So what we need to be able to do here is say, what is the distance from this point here to this point here? And that's going to come from the equations. This is y equals 2, and this is y equals e to the x. So the distance all the way across is the diameter. The diameter is 2 minus e to the x. But just be very careful. If you think of this as the radius, you're going to be in a lot of trouble here. You have to be very, very careful and know that for the radius, you're going to cut this in half. So if I do 2 divided by 2, I'm going to get 1. And if I do e to the x divided by 2, that's 1/2 e to the x. So just be careful and make sure that you cut this in half so that you set this up properly. So then here, to describe the volume of one of these slices, it's pi r squared divided by 2, because they're semicircles. So just be careful not to forget this, divide by 2, and then times dx, because dx represents the thickness of this semicircle prism here. But the next challenge that we're going to run into here when we want to set up this integral is that the volume is going to be over the entire distance here. So we're going from 0 to right now we have temporarily a mystery x value, which we're going to show how to find that in a moment. But we have pi over 2, r is equal to 1 minus 1/2. Let's just make that neater. 1/2 e to the x squared dx. So what we really need to know here to complete this question is we have to know what is our upper limit. When does this region end? So it's like a little mini problem here, but you want to know when is y equals 2 intersecting with y equals e to the x, or you want to know when is 2 equal to e to the x. And this you could solve by just taking the natural log of both sides, and you'll have natural log of e to the x on the right, and natural log and e cancel out, telling you that the upper limit is going to be x equals natural log 2. So this is the coordinate natural log 2, comma 2, and since this is all in terms of x, we're going to go with the x coordinate in our upper limit. So then here, all we need to do to close this question out is evaluate this integral. Okay, now to evaluate this integral, let's just type in everything that we had before. So we had pi divided by 2, and for an integral, we're going to press math 9 here, and we're going from 0 to natural log 2. And our integrand is parentheses 1 minus 1/2 e to the x. I could write 1/2 or I could write 0.5. Either one's going to accomplish what we need. And we have e to the x, and that whole thing is being squared. So I have to close the parentheses and square it. And now I just write dx at the end here. And this decimal value, 0.107 to the nearest thousandths place, represents the volume of our solid. Okay, so if we also want to see how to do this by hand, all we're going to do here is first we're going to have to expand this. So on the inside of our integral here, we're going to have 1 minus, and if we were to multiply this out, we would have minus 1/2 e to the x minus 1/2 e to the x, which is minus e to the x, plus 1/4, and then e to the x times e to the x is e to the x plus x, which is e to the 2x. So then all you'd have to do from this step is take the antiderivative of every piece. You'd have x minus e to the x. And then this, you could do a u sub, or just think about this carefully. The antiderivative of e to the 2x is e to the 2x divided by 2, which would give us a 1/8 e to the 2x. And we're going from 0 to natural log 2. So then to close this out, we just have to plug everything in. We're going to have natural log 2 minus e to the natural log 2 plus 1/8 e to the 2 natural log 2. And now minus, we substitute in 0, we get 0 minus e to the 0 plus 1/8 e to the 0. So this is just a lot of stuff to simplify. But if we go forward with it here, we'll just go ahead and do that. We've got natural log 2 minus, and this is going to work out to 2. This we could send back in to make 2 squared. So I have plus 1/8 times 2 squared, which 4 over 8 is going to reduce to a half. So I'm just going to have a half left here. And now I have minus 0, I'm not even going to bother with. But we have minus 1, which will change to a plus 1. And then I have minus 1/8 at the end, because I have minus 1/8 e to the 0 just becomes 1/8, and then minus 1/8 at the end. So then here, I just have to combine like terms, and I'm going to have pi over 2, natural log 2, and I have negative 2 plus 1. I could just group these together to make minus 1, and I have minus 1 plus a half minus 1/8. So this last part here, just have to be a little bit careful crunching through if you're not doing this with a calculator. But you have natural log 2, and now negative 1 plus a half, these two together make negative 1/2. And if I have negative 1/2 minus 1/8, that's negative 4 over 8 minus 1 over 8 is minus 5 over 8. Okay, so this is an alternate form of the answer, not as a decimal. This is if you want to simplify everything by hand. Okay, so what we could do before we move on is we're going to take our answer we got from using the fundamental theorem, and we're going to compare it to our decimal answer from before. So we have pi over 2 times natural log of 2 minus 5 over 8. And if we did the calculus correctly by hand, our answers should match. And notice here that our answers do match up to all decimal places. So this confirms that we did this correctly. Okay, for this last question here, we're going to start exactly the same way. So we're going to describe what this region looks like with the sketch here. and we're dealing with the equation y equals 2 square root sine x between 0 and pi. So if you think about it, sine of 0 is 0, so we're going to be starting at 0, 0 here. And if you go out to pi, sine of pi is also 0. So that's going to tell us what the x-intercepts are here at x equals 0 and pi. But if you were to look at pi over 2, notice at pi over 2, sine pi over 2 is 1, so you'd have the y value going all the way up here to 2. So that's, once again, for when x is equal to pi over 2. So if we were to sketch this thing's going to go up and then down, much like a regular sine curve would. And what we're trying to find here, if we look at this region on the inside, because our other boundaries here, if we talk about those for a second, are the lines x equals 0, so that's here, x equals pi, so that kind of like restricts our region to just not be something infinite. So we have a left and right boundary, our top boundary is the curve, and our bottom boundary is the line y equals 0, which is the x-axis. So this region here on the inside in red is definitely the region that we're focusing on. And we're taking cross sections perpendicular to the x-axis, and we're going to build them into squares. So this is just telling us how to set up our cross sections. So with our region, we take one of these cross sections here, and we're going to just build them into squares. So then what you want to think about here is how would you describe the length of one of the sides of this square? And remember, the thickness of the square is going to be delta x. But if you think about it, the distance from the curve to the x-axis is just determined by this equation here, y equals 2 square root sine x. So all the sides of this square are going to be 2 square root sine x. And this is going to help us describe the volume of one of these cross sections. So we can now complete step 2, because for step 2, one slice of volume is base times height, which in this case they match, and 2 times 2 is 4. Radical sine x times radical sine x is sine x. And notice on this interval here, this function is positive, so we don't have any issues with negatives under a square root. And then we have dx at the end, because it's length times width times height. So then from here, this is only the volume of one slice. We want the volume of the entire solid. So we have to think about, where does this region start and stop? And it starts at x equals 0, and it stops at x equals pi. So that's what's going to go in our limits, and we have the integral of 4 sine x dx. Now this is kind of simple to do by hand. This isn't too bad. So we'll just do this by hand. We have the antiderivative of sine is negative cosine, and we're going from 0 to pi. So here we've got negative 4 cosine of pi minus cosine of 0. And if we work this out, we've got negative 4 times negative 1 minus 1. And that'll give us negative 4 times negative 2, which tells us the volume of our last solid here is going to be 8 units, or 8 square units. I'm sorry, 8 cubic units, I should say. All right, well, this is going to conclude this video on Cavalieri's principle. If you found this video to be helpful, please like and subscribe. It really helps me grow the channel. And if you got any requests, just leave the topics you want me to cover in the comment section below. And thank you for watching.